What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the channel. Today we are going to be doing a quick tier list of the current leaders already announced for Star Wars Unlimited. We're not going to go into crazy detail for all of them. Also, I'm going to use this time to showcase some of the animations we've been working on for the channel. For some of the leaders, we don't have them all made, obviously, but we have a pretty decent amount made. And so, yeah, we're just going to get right into it. We're just going to talk about the leaders, what makes them strong, what, maybe it's lacking, and we'll kind of go from there. Starting with Eden, I actually have not played many matches with her, seen many matches with her. The ability to heal when an enemy is defeated can kind of make it so your base can kind of live early game and stuff like that. And then it comes out shielded as a leader unit. And then again, it can heal your base as you continue playing. So, it seems okay. It's just nothing too crazy there. I don't know if I want to rank it just yet because I haven't seen it in action too much. But again, it's a little bit, it has potential because it can restore your base. It can kind of keep you alive and stuff like that. But we're gonna just hop right into the next one just because the remaining ones we've seen play out and stuff like that, right? So we have the Grand Inquisitor, and this his big thing is that he deals damage to his own units. And you're going to want to kind of try to use this, especially with Fifth Brother, to kind of boost up the amount of damage that you do to your units and stuff like that. And there are units that if they take damage, they get stronger with grit and stuff like that. I don't think he's like that great, honestly. He's a cool card, right? He's a cool character in some regards, especially for Rebels. But I don't think he's anything like too crazy. Is he the worst deck? I don't think he's the worst deck, but I think he falls in between here, C and D, to be honest. Mainly because he's just kind of underwhelming. The ability, I feel like when I see people play him, he's just dealing damage to his own guys, and then at that point, they're able to be picked off. I don't think he's the worst deck. I just don't think he's that great. Getting into the next deck, Grand Moff Tarkin. I love Grand Moff Tarkin. I think he's pretty good. I like to play it with double command, although probably isn't the best way to play it, but he has the ability to buff up his Imperial units and stuff like that. So you can, power up your little guys, your little Imperial units, or even your bigger Imperial units and just make it so they're really strong. Again, this is one of my favorite decks to play. Is it the best deck? No, but I still think it's pretty solid. Especially with Attack Pattern Delta, I think that's what it's called. That added in with Overwhelming Barrage now is if you get to the late game and you've gotten ramp up pretty fast with Super Laser Technician, Command, and Resupply, right? And you have 8 resources by the time someone has 6, and you can play Attack Pattern Delta, give something +3, and then drop an Overwhelming Barrage, and you're adding +5 to something, and then dealing that damage out. That is think I do think he. This might be a little bit biased, but I think he falls into the B category. I think he's a lot of fun to play. But the thing is, he is kind of countered by shielded decks and stuff like that, because then you can't really control the board as much as you're powering up your Imperial units early on. So that's where that kind of falls in there. But I think it's still a fun deck to play. I think that the Overwhelm Barrage and the other command cards with the Imperial engine it's just really fun to play. And I think it's pretty solid. We have Leia up next. Leia Organa is pretty fast, especially if you play with aggression. You're essentially using her to attack with multiple rebel units in a single turn. That's really good value. You can really do a lot of damage really fast. And so I think that Leia is one of the faster decks. The thing is it is kind of control. You can kind of mitigate her a little bit. When she comes out, she gets raid 1 and then also allows you to attack with another rebel unit. So you can still get that rebel aggression off. But the thing is if someone puts out sentinels and stuff like that, you kind of slow her down. I still think she's really fun to play. Again, I like a lot of the green decks personally. But for this regard, I'm going to kind of put it to C. For now. Things might kind of change as we kind of go through, but like for right now, I'm going to kind of put her into C. We have one of the newer units for Jin Urso. I know that when I played Matt, he did double cunning. It did not work. I think Jin Urso works really well with vigilance, and that kind of allows you to play with Jedi lightsaber and stuff like that, and other cards like Luke Skywalker that give your opponents negative stats, right? And then she also adds on to that with the leader action that when you attack with something, you can, for an action, give it -1 attack. And then as a leader unit, all friendly units, when they're attacking a unit, gives it -1 attack for the opponent. So, like, you can use these other negative effect cards to kind of really make it so your units don't fear attacking an opponent unit, which I think is really cool and really unique. And I think that like warrants her to go up to B because like you're able to kind of control your opponent's board. You're swinging into your opponents without having to worry about it as much. You know what I mean? Especially if you're playing with vigilance, and you can kind of give yourself shields as well on top of that with other units, so you can do damage with your bigger units. Make it so they're taking 3 less, so they're taking the hits, and then your smaller units with a shield can kind of finish them off and stuff like that. I think it's really cool, and I think it could do really well, right? Going into Han Solo, Han Solo is really interesting and really cool. He's able to kind of give you resources fast, right? Just play a resource from your hand. Obviously, at the end of the turn, it goes away. But the thing is like being able to play early game a 3 cost, right? For the first turn, you play a 3 cost on the first turn. That's really good value. And then later on, if you get to, you can like play your 7th, right? If you have 6, if you wait later on, right? You have your 6 units. Then you go on and you play your 7th unit. You bring out Han Solo, and then you use his ability to put out um, your 8th resource, and then you can essentially get out, let's just say Mace Windu or Home One. Those are kind of the popular ones, right? That's really strong and really good value. The thing is, it's not as consistent as you would like it to be. And that's kind of where he kind of lacks, but I still think he's really, really strong. You can get those units out. He does stuff that other leaders can't do. In again, getting out that Mace Windu, that Home One, depending on which aspect you're playing with him. And then you can kind of roll from there, especially again, turn 1 getting a tier like a 3 cost unit to kind of control the board early is really strong. But I do think he kind of falls down to the B category because again the consistency isn't quite there, and it kind of goes like hand in hand for that. Going into Krennic now, okay, for me I kind of underestimated Krennic when the game first came out. He essentially gives when he's a leader unit, he has Restore 1, and then he gives +1/+0 to damaged units, right? I underestimated that, honestly, and I think that he is stronger than I anticipated. It is crazy how much +1 can do, especially for vigilance units. Again, that can get shielded and stuff like that. I think it's just really strong, especially getting that Restore 2. I think that's a bonus. For me, he's kind of leaning towards like B. Again, I don't want to go into like extreme detail. People who are watching this probably know how the game is played. And again, you know, I think that this unit is one of the units that surprised me. I think that his ability to help out his damage units as well as keeping his base alive as a leader unit was kind of surprising to me, and it performed better than I thought it was going to. So now we're moving on to the next card, Sabine Wren. Sabine Wren. I think a lot of people hate playing against Sabine Wren. It's one of those decks. It's an aggro deck, and especially in the US, right? I feel like with other card games, this is kind of how it falls. The US love aggro, and other countries that kind of like the control-y vibe and stuff like that. But you know, here in the US, I'm in the US. We love our aggro, but Sabine is just really fast. And there are times when Sabine can kind of take out your opponent before they can get started in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's where she might just be the best aggro deck currently. As far as like she's able to do what she wants to do faster than your opponent. And if that's the case, if you can't slow her down in any way, shape, or form, you are dead. and that kind of sucks. I feel like people kind of don't really like playing against her. I do feel like I'm going to go back down here. I'm going to put Eden into C for right now. Just because, like, you know, I don't think she's as bad as Grand Inquisitor, and I don't think she's as bad as another deck we're going to go over soon. So I'm going to put her in C. But again, back to Sabine, I think that she's one of the best aggro decks, if not the best aggro deck in terms of speed, and that's kind of why she falls into A. We're going into IG-88. I think that he's just very underwhelming. I thought he could have been really cool, but the thing is like you kind of need to have more units than your opponent to use his leader ability, and that could be a problem, especially depending on what you're playing up against. And then again, when he's out on the field, he essentially just gives everyone raid. But I just don't think that. I just think he's just very underwhelming, and that's why he falls into the D category for don't play that. That's not really actually what it stands for, but just like it just was very underwhelming for me at first. Again, maybe he might get more support and he'll go up, but at the moment, I kind of feel like he goes into the D category. Going into one of my friend's favorite decks to play is Chewy. I really like this card. I think that it adds value to other cards that would normally not really have as much value. Early in the game, especially in space, right? He plays Chewy with Cunning, and he's able to kind of control space early. If he has opening hand Millennium Falcon, or even second turn Millennium Falcon, getting Millennium Falcon out there with Sentinel on turn 2 makes it so like your opponent doesn't really want to attack into it. It has 4 HP, or 4 defense or whatever. And the thing is like a lot of the things that your opponent can play for 1 or 2 on the first turn can't swing in and kill the Millennium Falcon, and then can't swing it onto the base because it has Sentinel, right? And then at that point, the Millennium Falcon takes out that unit. It's still alive. It comes in readied. It attacks the opponent's base, and it takes damage. So then at that point, it has the ability to just go back to the opponent's hand, right? During the ready up phase, you can pay 1 and keep it on the board, or you can just not pay that. And if it has taken damage and not died, you take it back to your hand, because then you can play it next turn with full HP. It allows you to kind of control space kind of early. Another card that kind of works with Chewy very well is Yoda. Now, Yoda, not amazing normally. It's a little underwhelming, but the thing is that with giving it Sentinel, it forces your opponent to kind of take it out, right? And at that point, you're just kind of like, oh, look, Yoda's a little bit better in this deck than he would be in other decks. And that's kind of like another card. You have Millennium Falcon, you have Yoda, right? That kind of get the value, right? Because when it's defeated, it allows you to get that draw power. But again, Yoda and Millennium Falcon, those are kind of the cards that I like to really see with Chewy. And I think that, you know, he's also like when he comes out, having Grit and Sentinel is cool. Playing it with Vigilance, you can kind of give it shield with Distant Controller. And stuff like that. So like you can have it take a bunch of damage and start giving it shields and can do a lot of stuff. It might fall into C at the moment or B. The thing is like I like Chewy and I think Chewy's a lot of fun. I think that it goes at the very end of B, maybe top of C, but right now we're going to put it in B. Right? That's kind of where we're going to put it for right now. Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, I think Grand Admiral Thrawn is one of those cards that are really fun, really unique. The thing is, has it been as good as everyone wanted it to be? I don't know. I think it's really fun to play. It might be a little bit too slow at times, especially against some of these like really aggro decks where people like to play the faster decks that like kind of, you know, go fast. And like Thrawn, though it can kind of stall your opponent in a sense that you can tap its bigger things depending on what's drawn on your deck and your opponent's deck. The thing is that it's a little bit underwhelming. And again, Thrawn is still one of my favorite leaders to play, one of my favorite leader cards. It's just, there are the better decks are just so much better than it, I feel like. And like, again, what Fantasy Flight did with Thrawn, I think is like fantastic. They really played into his character. He's a tactical genius. He's always one step ahead of his opponent. The ability to know what your opponent's going to draw and what you're going to have next turn to kind of play and like come up with a plan to kind of go around that. I thought that they did a great job in really capturing Thrawn's character and essence in this card, right? It's just, is the card as good as it wants to be? I play it with Command. The ability to have Overwhelming Barrage with it is pretty good. But again, It's a little bit slow. I'll put it up here. Like, I love Thrawn. I think that it has potential to win matches. The thing is that a lot of what's going to be played is going to beat it. And that's where it kind of lacks. Like, yes, you can kind of slow down your opponent. You can suspend things. You can use the other cunning cards to suspend things. It's just, it's not performing as I thought it would when it was first announced. But I do like the ability to know what's coming next from your opponent, and you can really plan ahead. So if you're a strong player, you might have Thrawn in the B category. And actually, I honestly, like, I think it can go here because, like, card knowledge is really good. And the thing is, if you're really strong and you have the cards in hand to kind of play around and you can kind of like map out your opponent's next turn, you're one step ahead of your opponent. I think that that's pretty cool, and it can put it at the bottom of B. And like same thing with Chewie. Like Chewie can be at B as well, but he can also be in C. It's hard. Like I think that I'm just really bad at saying like cards are bad. But like these are two that could potentially be C or can be B. We'll continue on here, and then towards the end, we'll kind of move them and adjust as we see fit, right? We go into the next card here. We have Boba Fett. Boba Fett here is one of the strongest cards. I do think Boba Fett aggression is probably the way to go. I think he goes here. I think he's better than Sabine Wren. Boba Fett aggression is really good. You get your resources back as you do the certain, obviously. When you attack as your leader unit, you can ready up to 2 units, or you can, when he's a leader, when something leaves the field, you can ready up your resource. It's just you're getting your resources back so you can play cards, get your resources back, and extend your plays and play multiple larger cost cards. You can play multiple 3-cost cards. You can play like a 5 and a 3 late game. So like well, if it gets there, Boba Fett is really good. But the thing is like you just play more cards. You extend your plays. You're readying up your resources. It makes it so it's really hard to deal with. And it's just really strong. It's probably, if not the best deck, it's one of the best decks, in my opinion. It's just really good. Let's move on to Hera. Now, those of you who have watched me on my previous videos, I love Hera. As a character, I love Rebels. It's just the deck right now at the moment, though it is cool, being able to play multiple aspects without aspect penalties, depending on what you play. You can play Spectre units without aspect penalties. I thought that was very unique, very cool. She's a very good leader in the show, and so that makes sense that even if their Spectre units aren't the aspects that you're playing, no aspect penalty as long as it's a Spectre unit. Very good. The thing is that Spectres don't have the support that Rebels have, so if you're playing Hera, you're playing more of a Rebel deck. When you attack with her, she gives other unique units one experience. It's not the best Rebel deck. The Spectre units don't have as much support as you would like to see. Like I do think Leia is a better Rebel deck, in a sense, in many senses actually. And I do think that she falls to C. She's no D deck for sure. I just think that she falls in the C. I still love the deck. I still love playing her as a leader. It's not the best deck, and it's just not ideal to play at the moment. Getting into the starter deck, boys, here. Let's start off with Vader. Now, Vader is probably my favorite deck to play at the moment. I play Vader Command. The ability to have overwhelming barrage with Vader late game is so good. If you're going to compare her to Sabine, Sabine is way faster. The way you want to play Sabine is you want to go as fast as possible to take out your opponent. Vader is a deck that you kind of want it, though it can do things not like fast, but it's not like super slow. But the thing is, you want it to play a little bit slower because you want it to come out for 7, right? And the thing is when it comes out for 7, that's when you start to really see how good the deck is. Once Vader comes out, it's really good. Vader playing it with command gives you the ability to use Super Laser Technician and resupply. So with that being said, is Vader's ability to ping a unit, you can use it on your own units, and you can get your Super Laser Technicians back into your resource pool if your opponent doesn't want to attack into it. Obviously, they're not going to want to, but the thing is like, if your opponent tries to play around you gaining the resource, you can use Vader's ability to pop it yourself. If you play a villainy unit, you tap, you spend 1, and then you bring the Super Laser Technician back into the thing. He also works really well with Mahdi. I had a point where Vader had Vader's lightsaber on it. It had other experience gained from like TIE Advance and stuff like that, and he was really, really strong. I believe he had 11 power, and I had Mahdi on the field. So I attacked with Vader. I popped Mahdi, did 12 damage to the opponent's base. I didn't do 12 damage to the opponent's base. I did 11 damage to the opponent's base. Popping Mahdi re-readied up Vader. So I got 2 attacks with Vader for 22 damage in 1 turn. That's what Vader can do. You want to play it a little bit slower and power up Vader to the point where he can really chunk things and like do massive damage. I think that Vader is one of the best decks to play at the moment. I think he's extremely fun to play as well. Again, I added command. I love green, the ramping abilities. It's just something I like to use. But yeah, I think Vader is extremely strong. I think Sabine is faster, but I think that if you play Vader a little bit slower, it gives you the ability to win a longer game, right? So, pick that as you will. Those 2 aggression decks, do you want to play a little bit slower and then deal out massive damage as things kind of go on, especially with the ability to use Overwhelm Barrage on top of that? I just think Vader's a lot of fun. I like playing Vader over Sabine, but I see where people might say that Sabine is better just because it is faster and it's aggro. Getting into the final one here, we have Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is really good. It is going into A. The ability to be able to give out your shields and stuff like that, it's just pretty good. And with that being said, like, it's able to kind of, live, and adding in things like the Jedi lightsaber and stuff like that, it still makes Luke really strong as well. And there are other things that are going to be coming out. Regular Luke with this deck is really good, and giving it a shield, swinging into things, making them getting Restore 3 with the regular Luke if it has a shield from this Luke. Like it can become a problem. So like I think that this is kind of where I'm leaning towards as far as this. I think Thrawn might go here just because like the other decks are just better. But I love Thrawn myself. Like me personally, I think I would put him in B. But I think as far as like a tier list, as far as like where he's going to stand, I think for right now, he probably sits at C. So this is what we're working with. Roast me in the comments down below. I do think that like you can move some guys up to S tier. I'm just not moving anything up to S tier until all of the leaders are announced. I believe they said they're going to be doing 18 leaders. We have 3 more to see. Once that's the case and we get more cards released, we'll be able to kind of see where the meta falls. And so for right now, this is kind of how I'm rocking with it. Again, roast me in the comments because I'm sure people don't agree with some of the things I'm saying. And that's perfectly fine. Everyone can have their own opinions, and I like to hear your guys' opinions. If you are new and you enjoy the videos, make sure you hit that sub button. Support is greatly appreciated. We finally hit above 500 subscribers, and that's thanks to you guys, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. And with that, we're going to go on and get out of here. I'll see you guys in the next video.